Welcome to the Call to Harmony, where we explore the inner journey to oneness with self, others, and the divine. Welcome back, everybody, to the Call to Harmony. We're glad you're here listening with us again. We actually wanted to start off with a quote, which we've not done before, but this is from Helen Keller's autobiography. And the quote goes, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart." So we're going to dig into this quote a little bit. Right, Tucker?
Yeah, isn't this quote just stirs something in me? And as we've been talking about faith journeys, we've been talking about finding harmony. Harmony comes online when we shift our center of gravity from our minds to our hearts. And our hearts are able to hold things that our minds can't hold. And I'm not going to say that we don't use our minds anymore and we ignore our minds. They're beautiful gifts and we need to bring those along for the ride as well. But there is a shift maybe in that center of gravity that Helen Keller is pointing to here. And that can be a really hard shift to make, right? I've heard one of my other favorite authors, Michael Singer, says, "The mind is where the soul goes to hide from the heart." And maybe we'll unpack that a little. But Savannah, have you had this experience where when you go through something, you feel some strong emotions, some difficult emotions maybe, that all of a sudden you just start to overthink it and you tell stories about it and you're in your head and you can't think of anything else, and wherever you go, you can't be present there because you're thinking about something else, and our soul goes into our mind to hide from the feelings of the heart, and we try to think through it and get rid of it. Does that happen to you ever?
Oh, yes. All the time. I think that I always have feelings about my feelings. So I never, whether it's sadness or frustration or anger, I tend to feel frustrated that I'm feeling frustrated, or, I do go up to my mind to try and reason away or be like, what, like, you shouldn't, like, why is this what you're feeling? Like, this doesn't make sense, which never helps. But my brain keeps kicking on when that happens, to try and reason away what I'm feeling. But it doesn't really help me. It just makes me more frustrated.
Yeah, usually it just starts a mind emotion loop, right? Where I have an emotion, my mind starts telling stories about it, and then I have emotions about those stories, and I tell stories about those, and we just get caught in this loop and we lose ourselves. We lose presence, we lose a sense of living our life in the right here, right now, because we're living in a reality that our mind has created that's not real.
Yeah.
And that's so common as people are in faith journeys or life journeys or faith transitions or adult development, as you're going through transformations, as we all do. That's where we get caught up in our minds. And our culture reinforces that, right? Don't feel your feelings. I remember a Pepsi commercial, I think it was, from many years ago, where it just showed a bunch of men doing stupid things and getting hurt in really brutal ways. Like somebody got hit in the head with a golf club. Classic 30-second commercial, make you laugh so that you want to drink Pepsi. I mean, I'm not against Pepsi in this moment right now, but I'm just saying it was time, hurt after hurt after hurt. And the tagline was, "I'm good. I'm good." Guy gets hit with a golf club, and then he stands up and he's like, "I'm good." Guy gets blown up by like a electrical transformer and thrown across the yard into a trailer. I remember that scene vividly in my mind. And he stands up and his head is like smoking and he's like, "I'm good." And I just felt like that captures our culture really well, where we've got to like suppress our emotions and just say we're okay. And in order to be okay, to be accepted. And that's definitely a thing in the man world. Is that a thing outside the man world, Savannah?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone does it. I think everyone has had an experience where someone's asked, "How are you doing?" And you say those literal words, "I'm good," you know? I've said those many times when I am beyond, so far away from being good, and I think that that shows up a lot just like in yeah, our entire society. I think we and whether it's because we're just wanting to hide from our emotions or it's hard to just someone asks, we all ask even strangers, like, "How are you doing?" I ask a cashier at the store and, like, what, are they gonna spill their guts to me? I mean, I've had that happen before. Walmart will surprise you, but,
Well,
um
and you're that kind of person, Savannah, where people
True.
are like, "Oh, she's sincere." Like, I'm gonna
Or if they
spill
say,
any.
"I'm good," I'm like, "But are you? Are you good?"
Oh, yeah.
And I'll do that, which people don't like sometimes, so but if someone did that to me at certain times, I probably would my answer would be very different, but I think it's just so natural to just be like, "Oh, how are you doing?" And not actually care how someone's doing, which again is fine. We're all in a hurry, we're all busy, we all have things to do, and it's a common phrase, but I think naturally we just respond with what everyone responds with, whether it's true or not, so
Yeah, I agree. I was recently at a funeral of a person that had died quickly and unexpectedly and pretty young, and I remember at the funeral, like, just mechanically asking people, "Oh, how are you?" And they would say, "Good," and we both knew, like, once the question came out of my mind, I'm like, or out of my mouth, sorry, I was like, "Oh, why did I ask that question?" But it's just so mechanical, and then when they say, "I'm good," like, yeah, we're probably both in kind of an interesting space being at this funeral, so sorry I asked, and sorry to put you in that situation. That's just what we do,
yeah.
and culturally, to kinda keep it together, we just kinda hold things down, we suppress, and we don't share,
Yeah.
and, we don't need to point fingers at the culture and say it's evil or anything, but that's just the reality of life here, and sometimes it gets into places where we really need to feel our feelings, but we're so used to suppressing
Yeah.
that it prevents us from moving forward.
Yeah.
So, today we want to present a tool, talk about a simple thing that you can do that can help you process your feelings, become more centered, and get out of your head. Sometimes we might think of it as life is like a three-ring circus sometimes being human these days in 2025. We've got all these inputs coming in. We've got all of our senses, the sights, the sounds. We've got our thoughts. We've got our feelings. So through those are the gates that get into our consciousness, thoughts, feelings, senses. And with so many things and pressures influencing what's getting in, it can feel like we're sitting at a three-winged circus and there's so much going on that we can never really get centered and still inside. So, just like circus performers, trapeze artists, or a tightrope walker, what you want to do is drop into the net and just relax from the performance of it all. And so, we're actually going to use NET as an acronym as we talk about this tool. And I've shared this with you before, Savannah. But NET simply stands for N is notice and name your feelings, E is embody, and T is take a step toward your values. And that is a really quick thing that you can do in just a moment. And it's also something that you can sink into and do a little bit longer. But we're going to unpack each of those. Notice and name your feelings, embody, and take a step toward your values. And then maybe we'll do a longer practice, and then we'll do a shorter practice in this podcast. Does this sound like a plan here, Savannah?
That's great. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start with notice and name your feelings. So, this, like we said, is countercultural. Sometimes we get caught up in suppression or avoidance, escaping, buffering. I teach classes to help people overcome pornography. And most of the time with pornography, people are using it as an escape mechanism to get away from difficult feelings. And so, pornography is one buffer, but there's so many buffers out there. We all have our go-to buffers. A buffer is anything that we do that has a net negative effect when we're trying to escape our feelings. So, Savannah, do you have your go-to buffers?
I'm trying to think of mine. What are yours while I think?
Well, chocolate is just so effective in the short term for me. I get cravings for chocolate, honestly, when I'm, like, having intense feelings and I don't wanna, like, engage in them. Chocolate or something crunchy. I love chips in those moments. Sometimes it's a physical activity, um, and buffers aren't all inherently bad, right? There's just a way that our brain learns to divert or help us escape for a moment. But obviously the problem is it's been said that when you escape your feelings or you suppress your feelings, they go to the basement and lift weights and come back stronger, right?
Mm,
So,
analogy.
any buffers coming to your mind?
Yeah, I think I am an emotional eater. I think I tend to go to a sweet treat, or I love drinks too. Anything I think yummy makes me feel better and, like,
Yep.
not actually feel what I'm feeling, but it just, like, is like an instant relief in some way. I love watching just mind-numbing shows that don't engage any thinking or, trash reality TV tends to be what it is. I'm
Yeah.
embarrassed to say that, but it really just gets me out of and doing therapy especially, like, I'm not only feeling my own feelings, I'm feeling other people's feelings, and I'm like, "This is too much, I can't." Like, I need to watch someone's crazy life and just not think at all about my own,
Yeah.
which is, I think, a huge buffer that I go to.
Absolutely. And these buffers are so handy these days, right? They're so accessible. There's so many of them. And Eckhart Tolle talks about it like this. All of us have a voice in our head that is constantly talking. And sometimes it's talking so much that we just want to have some quiet. And so we can either go escape from the voice by going below thought and letting somebody else think for us by watching a show or videos, doom scrolling, whatever it is, and just kind of get into that mind numbing spot. Or we can go above thought through meditative techniques or things like that. And this net practice will help us get to that place. But it's just understandable to go either way because we've all been in that place of that voice in our head and just, "Ah, please give me some peace from it." It's
Yeah.
just part of being human. So what we don't wanna do here is, like, make you feel guilty for buffering, right? Sometimes buffering can even save a life because the feelings are too intense. But we do wanna give you an alternate tool because sometimes with buffering, what happens when we come back, we look and we're like, "Okay, there was a better way that I could have approached that." And there's often regret involved with buffering.
Mm,
And probably by definition, if we're buffering, we're doing something that leaves a negative effect behind. And so this net practice can help us go straight toward our feelings as we look toward wisdom teachers, and we just see that people that have learned to open up and go toward feelings and process them as they come can live a much more full life and be in the present moment rather than constantly having to use buffers to manage things and then regret it later.
yeah.
So let's start with the end. Notice and name your feelings. So, to notice your feelings, Savannah, you're working in therapy, um, and to name a feeling, what shift do you notice happens when you make that courageous turn toward your feelings and name what's inside of you?
Hmm. Um, I think that well, things just immediately will slow down because typically when we're in our cognitive mind, right? Thinking, 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 things are fast, even the tone of our voice, the speed of our talking, like all of that is usually a little bit quicker. But the second I've asked clients or I've been asked to go into my body and notice what's going on internally, everything immediately slows down. And sometimes almost immediately emotion will come up, whether
Yeah.
that's in tears or whatever it might be, right? But yeah, I think that the biggest thing is just that the room almost everything just slows down the
Mhm.
second someone drops into their body and starts to try and find what they're feeling.
Yeah, beautiful. Let's do it right now with our listeners.
Okay.
Just take a moment to slow down, take a turn inward, and notice your feelings. Might locate right where the most prominent feeling is arising in your body. Maybe you're feeling something in your shoulders or your chest or your neck or your arms. These feelings arise in many different ways. I was recently in a group where somebody asked us to notice our most prominent feeling and then put your hand on that part of your body where you're feeling it. And we all had our eyes closed, and they said, "Open your eyes." And everybody looked around, and we all had our hands in different parts of our body because the feelings arise and manifest not even in the same place for the same feeling at different times. But if I were to ask our listeners, put your hand on that place of your body where you are feeling the most prominent feeling. For me, I'm gravitating toward my shoulders. And my feeling right now is just a little bit unsettled. And it doesn't always have to be a negative feeling. Maybe there's a positive emotion going on in the background. But the moment that we notice the feeling, we name it, something slows down. And there's something amazing that happens. Our friend Hamish St. Stephen that will be on this podcast with us. He uses this hand gesture where you put one hand on the back of the other hand and then interlace your fingers. When we notice and name our feelings, something happens that's so subtle that we might not even notice it. But we actually become more conscious because we disentangle, we diffuse from our feelings, and we step back and we start to watch. Even Jesus in the New Testament, when he was teaching his disciples how to overcome temptation, he said, "Watch and pray," right? And so this watching, we go into this watcher mode. And Savannah, you said we slow down. Well, we have to slow down to get into that watcher mode. The sped up normal pace of life, we're not watching, we're just reacting, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
something as simple as it is to notice and name your feelings, you shift into a new state of consciousness if you weren't watching before. And all of a sudden you're slowed down, you're more aware, and we start to become centered from that simple act.
Yeah.
So, uh, Dan Siegel has used this phrase. He says, "Name it to tame it." If there's an emotion, if there's something driving you, if you're entangled, then that emotion is probably you can picture your emotion as the front hand when your hands are entangled, and it's driving the car. It's driving the bus. It's driving you, right? And when we step back, all of a sudden, we get to choose whether or not we want that emotion to be driving us in the moment. So the first part of net is to notice and name your feelings. And you'll need to slow down. You'll need to take a second to do that. But the more you practice this, the quicker those feelings you'll be able to catch them. And let me just mention this too. If you don't know what to name a feeling, like the naming of it precisely isn't as important as the watching, if that makes sense, of slowing down. Sometimes I'll have a feeling in my stomach and I'll be like, I don't know if that's anxiety, if it's fear, if it's nervousness, if it's just unease. You can just call it discomfort if you need to. But the important part is that you step back from it and watch it.
I was gonna add
And
too, maybe there's something called an emotion wheel
yeah,
that gives you a list, if that feels helpful, because I think for me, I'm like, "No, I need to name this."
yeah,
And even sometimes I can't think like, maybe some people have a hard time even labeling it as discomfort. So, if it feels helpful to you, if this is so new to you of trying to, like, notice emotions and figure out what you're even feeling, emotion wheels can be very helpful. They show you some primary emotions like happy, sad, scared, calm, and then the wheel extends and goes out into some um, deeper emotions, both happy and maybe not so happy emotions. But that's an option if people feel like, wait, I would like to know how to name this feeling. That can give some guidance there, if that's helpful for
Yeah,
the
it's beautiful.
listeners.
In fact, I'm gonna put one on the screen right now. So, if you're watching this on video, you'll notice here, yeah, just on the screen, we've got an emotion wheel here. This is on medium.com. There's a bunch of emotion wheels out there, but uh, you can see the different layers. Savannah, why are the different layers helpful?
So typically people will start, if you have a hard time identifying emotions, if you can start in the center and think of, okay, maybe this feels more like anger or happiness or sadness. You can start there, but then as you go deeper into the layers, the emotions get a little bit more specific. So if you were to go a little bit deeper into, the sadness side, which those words are so tiny for my eyes, but you might get
Like
some feelings of loneliness or, what are some of those ones on the outer? I can't quite read them.
isolated, abandoned.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it goes a little bit deeper, which can help in just getting more specific with what your emotion is. Because sometimes we just say sad, and that doesn't feel all encompassing. That doesn't feel quite accurate, but that's the only emotion that we know how to describe what we're feeling. So then when you can look at that wheel and get to the outer layers, you get a little bit deeper into the emotion and what might feel more accurate for you.
Yeah. And if you have time to do that, to get to that emotion and say it, beautiful. Do it. And there's some self discovery there and maybe some progress you'll make. And if you're in a conversation and you're trying to name your emotion and you're like, could you pause? I need my color wheel for a second. I can't tell if I'm agitated or if I'm like,
Sure.
obviously, right? We're not going to do that. Um, there's a time to like take some really introspective time on your own and like dig deep into what you're feeling that can be helpful. And there are other times where it's just like, it's not as important to get specific in that moment as it is to step back and to give the emotion space to be, right? And to allow it to be there instead of fighting it or trying to escape it. So that's our N for notice and name. And then the E stands for embody. And embody, this is a foreign thing in our culture, like we were talking about. Most of the time, we try to escape our feelings. We don't go into what the body feels like. We spend a lot of time in our heads. And so this might feel like a new move. But to embody is to go into our physical body, drop into it in some way. There's so many different ways to drop into your body. One simple way is if you've located that feeling and said, I'm feeling stress in my shoulders. I'm just going to breathe into my shoulders and notice the feeling that's there and see if I can relax and release some tension while I'm breathing into it. And you're breathing specifically into that part of your body where you're experiencing emotion. You can do that. You can also just do a quick body scan. In fact, let's do that with our listeners right now. Just notice right now, after you've noticed your feeling, noticed your emotion, let's just do a really quick body scan in maybe 1 minute. But just taking a moment to notice how the top of your head feels. Notice your scalp and just relax and let your scalp become calm and heavy. Notice your forehead. Relax the muscles in your forehead. Let them become calm. Notice your cheeks. Relax all the muscles in your cheeks. Your mouth, the muscles around your mouth. Your chin. Your neck. Breathe into your neck, and on the out breath, release any tension that's there. Notice your shoulders. A lot of times we feel stress and weight in our shoulders. Allow them to drop and become heavy and calm. Notice the feeling in your chest. Just relax. Release any tension that's in your chest or your abdomen. Let's come back to your arms. Notice your biceps, your triceps. See if you can relax them fully. Your forearms. And bring attention to your hands and your fingers. Maybe gently wiggle your feelings or your fingers and relax all the tension that's in your fingers. Come to your upper legs now, your thighs, your hips. Relax them fully. Your calves. Breathe into your feet. Wiggle your toes. And now just bring your attention to your body as a whole and take a deep, slow breath and let it out and see if you can just have a sense of general calm and relaxation as you've dropped into your body and the physical sensations there. And then if you followed us through that practice, just notice your sense of presence right now. As we drop into our body, we come more fully into the present moment. We feel more alive, more in the here and now, and less caught up in our stories and in our head, worried about the future, stressing about the past. So, a quick body scan is a really helpful thing for me to do when I want to embody. But whatever you're doing, you might even stretch for a moment. That's another way to embody. What we're doing is we're shifting from our thoughts being the focus of our attention to awareness. And it's a new mode for us to be in awareness. You can also embody by using your senses. So just really quickly, just become extremely aware of what you're seeing, the colors, the light, the shadows, what you're hearing, what you're touching. Feel your clothes on your body, what you're smelling, what you're tasting. Just dropping into senses for a moment can also bring you into the present moment and out of that uh, frenzied mind that we commonly can get caught in. Savannah, for you, embodying, what difference do you feel like it makes as you shift to that mode?
Um, yeah, I think things again just slow down even more, and I think feel things in my body that were probably existing before I started going into my body, but I just had no awareness of it. So I feel my emotion actually was content, and I actually don't feel too much weight in my body, and I feel more like I want to say air. Like it feels like there's like
Yeah, that makes
AC
sense.
blowing through my body. I don't
Yeah.
know how else to describe that. It sounds so crazy, but like it just feels yeah, just like air inside of me, which is an interesting feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Sometimes I'll feel this ease that comes in, just a flow that starts to come in, like, the present moment, and presence just brings a sense of, "Oh, I can be right here, right now, and there's nothing for me anywhere else but right here, right now," and I come into this sense of ease and presence.
Yeah.
And man, life is so much better from that space, right?
I
And
don't usually
clearer.
feel this way.
Yeah. And so
Yes.
that simple act of embodying can be really powerful. And then once we've embodied, we're gonna move toward T, which is take a step toward your values. And values, let's talk about values for a second. Pause before we practice this. Because our values, what we mean by our values is our core values, the things that mean more to us, what is closer to our hearts, to our core, to who we are than anything else. And values, there's so many values possible. If I were to share my core values, I mean, they're shifting and they shift a lot, especially as you go through transformations. Something that was a core value before might become might not be a core value anymore. But I would say right now, my core values, compassion, stillness, and surrender are three of my core values. And when I'm in a place where I'm like, okay, so how do I live my life most purposely with most direction and passion? It's when I'm living out of compassion and stillness and surrender. And those are my values. And they're probably, I don't know if there's another person on this planet, they would say those are their three core values because we're all individual. We all have different experiences. So it's really important. And we're going to invite you, even right now in this podcast, to take some time to settle on what your core values are if you haven't done this before. And in order to do this, I've got this list of values that I'm going to share from Brené Brown from her website. It's a Dare to Lead list. And I'll put it on the screen for those of you watching the video to this. And we'll just invite you to take a minute to read through this list and narrow down your values to your 2 or 3 most core values. And this is always challenging to because you can read through a list and be like, oh, that one. Oh, yeah, that one too. And that one. And pretty soon you'll have a list of maybe 10 or 15. Yeah. And then go back to that 10 or 15 and it feels like giving away your children, but come down to your 2 or 3 most core values. And I'll just invite you to do this. Once I put this on the screen, pause it, take some time so you can say, these are my core values. And what this is going to do for us is if we can quickly recite our core values, we can quickly recenter on what's most important to us. It's really easy to get caught up in living a goal-centered life. Like, oh, I'm trying to complete this thing. I'll be happy when I'm in this new place, when I'm done with my degree, Savannah, not to be too personal, or when I'm done writing this book, or when I'm in this new place. And what that can do to us is what that can do is get us out of this moment and living in a way that I'll be fulfilled later.
Mm.
But when we're rooted to our values and we can say, I'm going to live into compassion and stillness and surrender in this moment, all of a sudden in this moment, I'm living my life fully and I'm present. And so this is why we recommend taking some time to do this practice. Get your values down to 2 or 3 that you can just recite to you any place, any time, and recenter. So I'm going to share this on the screen right now, and we'll just invite you to take a moment to distill your values or to settle on your 2 or 3 core values. And we'll also leave a link to these values. And we'll also leave a link to these values in the show notes if you want to do this through that link.
I wonder if this experience I don't know if this is derailing this episode too much, but I don't know if this experience, like you had mentioned, right? Sometimes our values will shift over time. They might be different than they were a year ago to what they are now. I've noticed for me in doing this activity, I've done something like this years ago, and my top ones were probably, I don't know, spirituality, God, and church. And, none
Yeah.
of those are in my top 3 anymore. And I think
Uh-huh.
when I did this exercise, when I realized that those weren't in my top 3 values, I felt some maybe guilt or concern, like, "Oh, no,
Mm.
those are supposed to be my values forever, like, God's
Right.
first always," and it's not that God isn't important to me anymore or spirituality or these other things, but they're not playing the same role in my life as they used to, and so I think that can even be an opportunity as you're even picking the values to, again, do this net practice because that might bring up some other emotions as you're recognizing that values have shifted or And it might not be that way for everyone, but that was my experience when I recently did this values exercise again and noticed a huge shift in what my values were, and it scared me at first. I was like, "Oh no,
Mm.
like what's going on?" And all those values are great. So it's funny that I was so scared, but I had this expectation that I was supposed to have the same values all the time. And the top 3 should always be the top 3 and the other ones can float around, but I mean, they've shifted. My top 3 have shifted quite a bit. So just something to be aware of, that if that happens for you, that happened to me too. So it's very normal.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Savannah. Um, and it's hard work to go back to noticing and naming those feelings and to notice, oh, fear's coming up. And I because we want to go back into our heads and figure out why fear is coming up. But rerouting, coming back to the noticing and naming, feeling that emotion, and then allowing yourself to be exactly where you are and knowing that it's vital that you be exactly where you are, not somewhere else, and not choosing values that aren't resonating with you and trying to be someone that you're not right now. That's going to get you in more turmoil. But what we want to do is find the values that right here, right now in this moment are speaking to me and resonating with me. And that will help us move from our head to our heart and be able to live from a place of authenticity and passion and direction and purpose. So
Yeah.
I'm super grateful you shared that. Thank you, Savannah.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm going to put these back on the screen. If everybody wants to pause this and take some time, I wouldn't rush it too much. Give yourself some time to settle on your values and push play when you're down to 2 or 3. Okay, we're back. Good work, everybody. If you took some time to settle on your values, now you can just say to yourself, these are my 2 or 3 core values. Savannah, do you mind sharing? What are your core values at this point?
Sure. I think compassion, balance, and authenticity are my top 3 at the current
Mm,
moment, which
that's
is interesting
beautiful.
because I was like, what value is going to align with feeling content? But when I think about balance, I think initially I'm like, oh, I'm feeling content. This is awesome. I don't usually feel this way. I don't feel this air in my body. Like, I want this all the time. But one of my values is balance and knowing that there are opposites in all things and accepting that this current contentness or flow in my body feels so good because I've felt the opposite of this. I've had the balance
Mm,
of feeling this and also feeling the weight and the lack of flow in my body.
mhm,
And so I can accept what I'm feeling and be happy that I'm feeling it and grateful that I've had the opposite. Um, and know that it'll come and I'll flow out of this and I'll flow back into this and that's aligns with my value of finding and embracing balance.
mm, beautiful. Notice what Savannah just did as she like took her current experience and then brought her value into it. And when we do that, when we just pause for a second and just recite our values to ourselves and then hold it up to our current experience, it just gives us a sense of direction, of peace, and it brings us into a centeredness, like we just heard
Mhm.
Savannah practice right there. So
I'm curious
in
what
the net
yours
practice,
is. Oh, sorry, I
what mine?
interrupted you. Yeah, I want you
Oh
to
no.
make sure you share yours too.
Oh yeah. I think I shared them earlier and
About how they
compassion.
align with fear, yeah.
Oh
Or
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
the
yeah.
unsettledness you said.
Well, the unsettledness, and for me, I'm not looking at how do these align. I'm just like, oh, when I say these, then the unsettledness, like I can be okay with the unsettledness because I have compassion that I can sit here with myself in the unsettledness, right? So if I say, oh yeah, my core values are compassion, stillness, and surrender, and I was unsettled. Honestly, most of the time, by the time I get to the end of embodied, that the feeling is shifted a little bit,
Yeah.
but there's still a little bit of unsettledness there. So I can just take a moment to exercise compassion and be like, hey, I see you unsettledness, and you're not me. I am not that emotion, but I'm okay to sit with the emotion and feel it with you. And stillness. I can hold the unsettledness from a place of greater stillness.
Mm,
And surrender. I can even surrender to the fact that there's unsettledness right here, right now, and be okay with it.
yeah,
And I just feel when I come back to those values, so much more fulfilled and centered in a direction in life.
yeah.
So we'd invite our listeners to do that right now. Just recite to yourself your values. And as you do, you might even picture yourself embodying those values more fully in the moment as you say each one. How can I embody? Maybe your value is kindness. And maybe even make space inside yourself for that value to grow, to swell. And as you wrap up the net practice, reciting your values, you can do net practice with your eyes open. You can do it with closed. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I'll say to myself, when I open my eyes in 3 seconds, I'm going to embody compassion, stillness, and surrender. And then I open my eyes and I move forward with that purpose in that moment. So that was a long explanation of this net practice. So let's just do a quick run through a net practice in a shorter time span. Let's do this one in maybe about a minute total. Okay, so if it's okay, Savannah, I'll just lead us through that.
It's great.
Okay, so in fact, let's invite you to picture yourself in a context that was difficult or challenging recently, someplace where difficult emotions came up. And let's not do a traumatic one for this, not when you're 10 or 10 on the emotion scale, but 10 out of 10, but when you're maybe 4, 5, or 6, something that was challenging but not overwhelming.
Okay.
So picture that time, that place, that environment that you were in. Allow your imagination to bring up enough detail that maybe even some of the feelings that you experience then start to arise in your body. And now let's go ahead and do a net practice. You're going to drop into the net, slow down. Take a moment to notice and name the feelings that are arising in your body now. As you give the feeling a name, even say to yourself where it's rising in your body. I'm noticing this feeling in this location. And allow yourself to be curious about it, its shape, its size, whether it's pulling in or pushing out, the dynamics of the feeling. And just allow it to be there. We're not trying to get rid of the feeling, we're welcoming it. And now we'll go ahead and move toward embodying. Just breathe into the feeling, to that part of your body, relax, give it space to be. And notice that there's space around that feeling, that you have parts of your body where the sensation is less intense. Breathe into those parts of your body. Maybe wiggle your fingers and your toes. And move your shoulders and allow them to relax a little bit. And now we're going to take a step toward our values. Recite your values to yourself. And you can pick one or use all three, but commit to yourself that as you open your eyes at the end of this practice, you are going to live that value or those values. You're going to embody them. And we'll finish in 3, 2, 1. And at the end of that net practice, just notice the dynamic, the change from maybe the emotions that were coming up at the first and maybe some thoughts about them. Maybe your mind wanted to fix them or tell stories about it or blame or be a victim or whatever it was. And when we shift to noticing and naming, embodying, and taking a step toward our value, it helps us reroute and come from what's at really our core and find some peace and direction in those moments. So we hope this net practice is helpful for everybody and invite you to try it in everyday life several times a day. This is something that's just become a way that I live my life and something I try to come back to as much as I can. And it can be something that you do when you get up in the morning to start your day or when you're laying in bed at night trying to settle down. Or I do it sometimes in the middle of a conversation where I feel a feeling coming up and I'm like, I'm going to go into my head. I'm going to lose presence. I'll just quickly notice what's coming up. Ah, there you are, fear. And I'll take a breath and I'll be like, compassion. And it took me 4 seconds and I'm back in the present. And so just something to take with you, stick in your pocket, a tool to help you on your journey. And we hope that this time has been helpful and well spent for you all today. Savannah, any last words for our listeners?
Just along with the piece of harmony, it takes practice. This practice takes practice. Doing the net practice,
Yeah.
it might feel unnatural at first. It might feel like you're not noticing things in your body, and that's normal too. And some things might not work for you, and that's okay. But everything that we are trying to share here takes practice. It's not just a do it one time, and all of a sudden you're going to always be in your body and taking steps towards your values. It's a constant effort, just like trying to live in harmony is as well. We need to practice it. So
Yeah,
practice away.
absolutely. And maybe we'll end where we started. This quote from Helen Keller: "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart." And as we do this net practice, we're helping ourselves this shift to a new way of living where we can feel and be open to uh, things through our heart that maybe we would otherwise miss because we're living in our heads. And what a beautiful life it is to live from the heart, to be open to experiencing the ups and the downs, and to knowing that whatever comes, we can sit with it. And everything that comes will help us grow, help us deepen our journey into harmony. And that's our hope for all of us as we say, see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening, and we hope you will join us next time on The Call to Harmony.